Hi, my name is Bryce. Here is my skeleton. This is the anterior view of it. And then this is the posterior view. To start, I'm going to be talking about the rectus femoris, which is located on the anterior spine on the femur. Its origin is at the anterior inferior iliac spine, which is going to be obviously on the ilium. And it's going to be right around this area. It almost like originates on like a point. And the insertion point is the patella and tibial tuberosity, which is obviously right around that patella as well. Doesn't completely cover the patella, but the insertion point is right above the patella and right below, or I guess the proximal part of the patella and the distal part. The action that it inhibits is flexion of the thigh. So really bringing that thigh upwards, and just like an everyday action that you would be using this in is when you're running, because you're doing a lot of this, right? Next, I'm going to be talking about the palmaris longus, which is located again on the anterior part of the skeleton. It originates at the medial epicondyle of the humerus, which is going to be right in here. You can't really see it very well, can ya? It's just going to be like the medial part of the humerus, so about right here. And then it inserts on the second and third metacarpal, so that's going to be your pointer finger and middle finger, but it's going to be in the metacarpal, so it's going to be almost in the palm of that area, which is right in this area as well. It aids in, or it flexes the hand and wrist, and this is like a lot of like use of this would be if you're picking stuff up. Obviously, if you're curling around, if this is super heavy, right, you'd want to curl it around. Next, I'm going to be talking about the biceps brachii, which is going to be located on the anterior part of the skeleton as well, and then it's located on the humerus. It originates at the long head originates at the supraglenoid tubercle, and the short head originates at the coracoid process. So that supraglenoid is going to be more on like the medial part of the scapula, which is going to be like right around here. And then the short head is located on the coracoid process, which is going to be on a very lateral part of the scapula. So it's just going to be right in there. The insertion point is a radial tuberosity, which is like almost, or like a, I don't know, just like a point on the radius where it attaches to, and it's very lateral on the radius. You could see that right there. It flexes the forearm, which is a lot like basically this movement, and just like an everyday use of it would be if you were like curling or if you were running, because you're doing a lot of flexion of the forearm in that movement, right? Next, I'm going to be moving to the tensor fascia lata, which is found on the anterior part of the skeleton and on the femur bone. It originates at the iliac crest in the anterior superior iliac spine, which is just kind of right in this location, very lateral part of the ilium. And it inserts at the iliotibial tract, which is just proximal lateral, or it's on like the very proximal lateral part of the tibia. So you can kind of see it right here, just like very medial and anterior part of the tibia. It adducts the thigh, which means that it's bringing the thigh towards the midline. So it's this movement, bringing that thigh inward. And like a really good example of this would be if you were stepping to the side, right? I'm bringing my leg outward and then bringing it back in, that adduction movement. Finally, I'm going to talk about the deltoid, which is located on like both the anterior and posterior part of the skeleton. The origin is the acromion and spine of the scapula, and then also the lateral clavicle. So I'm going to have to kind of do a close-up right here. This is the insertion point right at the clavicle. And then the acromion is kind of covered up by the deltoid fabric, but it also is on the spine of the scapula, which is right here. Its insertion point is the deltoid tuberosity of the humerus, which is a very medial lateral part of the humerus. And it's just going to be right, covering up with my finger. It's going to be right here. The action that it inhibits is extension of the arm. So like a lot of this movement, or if you're going out like this, and just like an everyday use of this would be if you're reaching up for something high. Obviously, you're going to have to reach up and grab it. And that should be everything.